A ribbon of fire advances with a slow certainty that defies urgency, yet leaves no time to hesitate. Along a coastal stretch of Réunion Island, asphalt that once carried commuters and cargo now buckles, darkens and disappears beneath molten rock. How does a road engineered to endure weight, heat and weather simply vanish? What forces beneath the surface can push an island outward into the sea, adding land in real time? And why does this particular volcano, Piton de la Fournaise, erupt so frequently, yet with such calculated restraint that it rarely produces catastrophic loss of life? These questions linger as the latest eruption reshapes both terrain and understanding. The eruption began not with a single explosive moment, but with a sequence of subtle signals that intensified over hours. Seismic tremors registered beneath the southeastern flank, their frequency increasing in tight clusters. Ground deformation followed, measurable shifts indicating magma rising through fractures in the crust. Then came the fissure opening, a linear rupture slicing across the volcanic slope, releasing incandescent lava that immediately began its descent. Unlike the towering ash plumes associated with more viscous volcanoes, this eruption produced relatively low fountains of lava, driven by basaltic magma that flows more easily than its silica-rich counterparts. The lava's movement is governed by a combination of slope, temperature, and composition. Freshly erupted basalt emerges at temperatures exceeding 1,100 degrees Celsius, or over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, glowing orange at first before darkening as it cools. At these temperatures, it behaves almost like a thick liquid, advancing in channels that form natural levees as the outer layers solidify. These channels can carry molten rock over considerable distances, maintaining heat within insulated pathways. As a result, lava from Piton de la Fournaise often travels several kilometers, or a few miles, before losing enough energy to stop. In this recent event, one of those channels intersected a coastal road that serves as a critical connection along the island's southeastern edge. The encounter was not abrupt, but methodical. Heat radiated outward first, softening asphalt and weakening its structure. Then the leading edge of the flow made contact, spreading laterally as it advanced. Within minutes, the road was no longer a surface, but a submerged layer beneath an expanding sheet of lava. Vehicles had already been cleared from the area, leaving behind an empty stretch of infrastructure that could offer no resistance. From a geological perspective, such destruction is also creation. As the lava reached the shoreline, it did not stop, but continued into the ocean, producing dramatic interactions between molten rock and seawater. Upon contact, rapid cooling occurs, forming new land through a process known as literal cone formation. Steam plumes rise as water flashes into vapor, sometimes carrying fine particles of volcanic glass. These interactions can be hazardous due to the potential for explosive fragmentation, yet they also represent one of the primary ways islands like Réunion Island grow over time. The island itself is the product of a hotspot, a plume of magma rising from deep within the Earth's mantle. Unlike tectonic plate boundaries where most volcanoes form, hotspots can create volcanic chains in the middle of oceanic plates. Piton de la Fournaise sits above one such plume, continuously supplied with magma that fuels its frequent eruptions. This steady supply is why the volcano is classified as one of the most active in the world, with eruptions occurring on average once every year or two. Its structure reflects this persistent activity. Rather than steep slopes and explosive eruptions, it forms a broad, shield-like profile built from successive layers of fluid lava. Each eruption adds another thin layer, gradually increasing elevation, while extending outward. Over tens of thousands of years, this process has shaped much of the island's southeastern region, creating a landscape that appears both rugged and deceptively stable. The recent lava flow illustrates a key characteristic of basaltic volcanism: predictability in path but not in duration. Once a fissure opens and lava begins to flow, its general direction can often be anticipated based on topography. However, the length of the eruption and the volume of lava released are far less certain. In this case, the flow maintained a steady output, feeding multiple channels that branched and rejoined as they navigated the terrain. Some sections advanced rapidly, while others slowed, forming thick accumulations that cooled into jagged, uneven surfaces known as lava. Other portions developed smoother, rope-like textures referred to as pahoho, where the lava remained fluid enough to create undulating patterns as it cooled. The coexistence of these textures within a single flow highlights variations in temperature, gas content, and movement speed. Observing these differences provides insight into the internal dynamics of the eruption, revealing how magma evolves as it travels from source to surface. Infrastructure damage extended beyond the immediate burial of the road. Heat from the lava affected nearby systems, including buried utilities and protective barriers. In some areas, the ground beneath adjacent sections of roadway began to fracture due to thermal stress. These secondary effects demonstrate that the impact of a lava flow is not limited to its visible boundaries. Radiant heat alone can alter materials several meters or several yards away from the main channel. Despite the visible destruction, the eruption has followed patterns consistent with previous events at Piton de la Fournaise. The volcano's eruptions are typically effusive rather than explosive, meaning they release lava steadily rather than violently. This behavior is linked to the low viscosity of basaltic magma, which allows gases to escape gradually instead of building up pressure. As a result, while the flows can be extensive, they are less likely to produce sudden, large-scale explosions. Monitoring systems on Réunion Island play a crucial role in managing these events. Seismic networks, GPS measurements, and satellite observations provide continuous data on the volcano's activity. These tools enable authorities to detect early signs of unrest and implement precautionary measures, such as road closures and restricted access zones. In this instance, the advance of lava toward the coastal road was anticipated, allowing for timely evacuation and minimizing risk to human life. The interaction between lava and the ocean remains one of the most visually striking aspects of the eruption. As molten rock pours into the sea, it cools rapidly, forming new layers of solid basalt that extend the shoreline outward. This process can add several meters or several yards of new land in a matter of days, depending on the volume of lava entering the water. Over longer periods, repeated events contribute to significant changes in the island's coastline. However, this newly formed land is initially unstable. Beneath the surface, rapid cooling can create fractures and voids, making the ground susceptible to collapse. Waves and currents further erode these fresh formations, reshaping them before they can fully consolidate. The result is a dynamic boundary, where land and sea continuously redefine each other. The broader geological context of Piton de la Fournaise reveals an ongoing cycle of construction and erosion. While eruptions build up the island, other processes work to wear it down. Rainfall, landslides, and oceanic forces gradually remove material, balancing the growth produced by volcanic activity. This interplay ensures that the island's shape is never fixed, but always evolving. One of the more intriguing aspects of this eruption lies in the apparent efficiency of the lava's path. The flow did not spread randomly, but followed a route that suggests pre-existing channels or weaknesses in the Earth's crust. These pathways may have been established during previous eruptions, creating a network of conduits that guide future flows. Over time, this network becomes more defined, influencing the direction and behavior of subsequent eruptions. Such patterns raise questions about how much of the volcano's activity is governed by immediate conditions versus long-term structural features. The consistency of flow directions in certain areas suggests that the internal architecture of the volcano plays a significant role. Understanding this architecture is essential for predicting future events, particularly in regions where infrastructure intersects with potential lava paths. As the eruption continues, the visible landscape changes incrementally. What was once a continuous stretch of road is now segmented, with portions completely buried and others isolated by hardened lava fields. The coastline extends outward in irregular shapes, reflecting the uneven distribution of lava entering the sea. Each new layer adds complexity to the terrain, creating features that will influence future flows and erosion patterns. Beneath these visible changes, deeper processes remain concealed. Magma continues to rise from the mantle plume, feeding the eruption through a system of conduits that extend several kilometers or a few miles beneath the surface. Pressure within these conduits fluctuates, affecting the rate of lava output and the formation of new fissures. These subsurface dynamics are critical to understanding not only the current eruption, but also the long-term behavior of Piton de la Fournaise. The persistence of activity at this volcano is both a defining characteristic and a source of ongoing uncertainty. While individual eruptions may follow recognizable patterns, the cumulative effects over time can lead to unexpected outcomes. Roads are rebuilt, only to be threatened again. Coastlines advance, then erode. The island grows, yet remains vulnerable to the very forces that create it. Attention now shifts to subtle developments that may not be immediately visible but carry significant implications. Variations in lava composition, slight changes in flow direction, and fluctuations in output rates hint at processes occurring deeper within the volcanic system. These details, often overlooked in the immediate aftermath of visible events, hold clues to a more complex mechanism at work, one that extends beyond the surface manifestations of fire and rock. And it is within these quieter signals, beneath the steady advance of lava and the gradual expansion of land, that a more intricate question begins to emerge, one that suggests this eruption may not be entirely following the patterns it first appeared to obey. The pattern begins to shift in ways that are not immediately visible to the eye, but become evident through the behavior of the lava itself. Flows that initially followed predictable channels begin to slow in unexpected sections, while accelerating in others, creating subtle deviations from earlier paths. These changes are not random. They point to adjustments occurring beneath the surface, where magma supply, pressure within conduits, and structural weaknesses interact in ways that alter the course of the eruption. On Réunion Island, these shifts are closely watched because they can signal a transition in the volcano's internal state. One of the first indicators emerges through variations in lava output. The volume of molten rock reaching the surface does not remain constant. Instead, it pulses, sometimes increasing to feed multiple advancing fronts, then decreasing to leave portions of the flow stagnant. This pulsing suggests that the magma chamber beneath Piton de la Fournaise is not a single uniform reservoir, but a complex system of interconnected pockets. As pressure redistributes within these pockets, different exit points become more or less active, influencing where lava appears and how it travels. At the surface, this translates into a landscape that evolves unevenly. Sections of hardened lava that appeared stable begin to crack, not from cooling alone, but from renewed pressure beneath them. In some areas, the crust collapses inward, revealing glowing channels still carrying molten rock below. These hidden pathways allow lava to travel farther than expected, re-emerging at points that seem disconnected from the main flow. The result is a network of activity that extends beyond the visible front, complicating efforts to anticipate the eruption's reach. The coastal expansion provides another layer of insight. As lava continues to enter the ocean, the rate of land formation does not increase steadily. Instead, it fluctuates, sometimes building outward rapidly by several meters or several yards in a short period, then slowing as the flow diminishes. These fluctuations correspond with changes in supply from the volcano's interior, indicating that what is observed at the shoreline is directly tied to processes occurring kilometers beneath the surface. Thermal measurements reveal additional details. Newly formed lava fields retain heat longer in certain areas, suggesting variations in thickness and composition. Thicker accumulations act as insulators, preserving molten material beneath a solid crust. This allows flows to remain active internally even when the surface appears dormant. Such conditions can lead to sudden reactivation, where previously quiet areas begin to emit lava again without warning. These observations begin to point toward a more intricate mechanism governing the eruption. The traditional view of Piton de la Fournaise as a relatively straightforward basaltic system, fed by a steady plume and characterized by predictable effusive eruptions, does not fully account for the variability now being recorded. Instead, the data suggests that the volcano operates through a layered system, where shallow and deep magma sources interact in dynamic ways. The deeper source, connected to the mantle plume, provides a continuous supply of basaltic magma. This magma rises into intermediate reservoirs, where it can accumulate, cool slightly, and evolve before moving upward again. During this process, gases may separate, crystals may form, and the chemistry of the magma can change subtly. These changes affect viscosity and gas content, which in turn influence how the lava behaves when it reaches the surface. In the current eruption, evidence suggests that multiple reservoirs are contributing simultaneously. This creates overlapping signals, where some flows reflect freshly supplied magma from depth, while others originate from stored material that has undergone slight modification. The interaction between these sources can produce the observed fluctuations in output and flow direction. Another factor emerges through the alignment of fissures. While the initial rupture followed a known direction along the volcano's flank, subsequent openings have shown slight deviations. These deviations correspond with zones of structural weakness within the volcanic edifice, indicating that the internal stress field is shifting as magma moves through it. Over time, repeated eruptions can alter this stress field, creating new pathways and closing others. This evolving structure is key to understanding why certain areas of Réunion Island are repeatedly affected while others remain largely untouched. Lava does not simply follow the steepest descent. It follows the path of least resistance, which is determined by both surface topography and subsurface architecture. As that architecture changes, so too does the distribution of risk. Such behavior raises important questions about the stability of the system. If pressure can redistribute quickly across multiple reservoirs, it may allow the volcano to adjust gradually, releasing energy through continuous effusive activity. This could explain why Piton de la Fournaise rarely produces large explosive eruptions despite its high level of activity. The system effectively vents pressure in stages, preventing the buildup that leads to more violent events. However, the same connectivity introduces uncertainty. A change in one part of the system can propagate rapidly, altering conditions elsewhere. This means that while the volcano is generally predictable in its overall behavior, the details of each eruption can vary in ways that are difficult to anticipate fully. The current event highlights this balance between consistency and variation. The destruction of the coastal road followed expected patterns, yet the subsequent development of the flow has revealed complexities that extend beyond those patterns. The expansion of the coastline continues, but not in a uniform manner. The internal dynamics of the lava field remain active, even as surface activity appears to stabilize in certain areas. As monitoring continues, attention focuses on subtle indicators that may signal further changes. These include minor increases in seismic activity, slight shifts in ground deformation, and variations in gas emissions. Each of these factors provides a piece of the larger picture, helping to refine understanding of how the volcano operates. The emerging explanation drawn from these observations points to a system that is both stable and dynamic. Piton de la Fournaise maintains a steady supply of magma from depth, yet the path that magma takes to the surface is constantly evolving. This dual nature allows the volcano to erupt frequently without escalating into more dangerous behavior, while still producing the localized impacts seen in this event. And as the lava continues to move, slowly reshaping the edge of Réunion Island, the broader implication becomes clear. The island is not a finished landform, but an active system, constantly building, adjusting and redefining itself through the persistent activity of Piton de la Fournaise. If you found this video insightful and want more in-depth coverage like this, make sure to like, share and subscribe and tap that hype icon to help this video reach a wider audience.